Rock history gets told by the stadiums. A handful of names on tour shirts, the same riffs on every classic rock playlist. But between the headliners and the footnotes lives another universe. The bands who pressed a single LP on a shoestring label, tore up 3 clubs, then vanished into thrift shops and rumor. No t-shirt, no radio single, just the kind of electricity that leaves burn marks on tape. We're crossing from Scottish Hammond Howl prog to Japanese heavy psych, from Rust Belt proto-metal to Dutch twin guitar thunder, with a stop in Berlin's grit and organ underbelly. Some of these records were private press miracles. Others bore the right catalog number, but the wrong decade. What they share is a pulse. Ideas too big for their budgets, players who swung for the fences, and songs that make you ask how this wasn't on every mixtape you ever made. This film is about that universe. A few ground rules for the dig. No household names. If your aunt knows them, they're not here. One band, one door and track. We'll give you the cut that unlocks the album. Front to back listening over singles. Most of these bands thought in long forms, suites, jams, side-length statements. Context without homework. You'll get the essentials, where they came from, why they vanished, what to listen for, then straight to the music. You'll hear organ stacks that growl like diesel engines, guitars recorded so hot they warp the air, rhythm sections that don't know the difference between prog discipline and bar band danger, and singers who believe that one weekend's take might be their only shot at permanence. Sometimes it was. Cue this up on real speakers or good headphones. As we count down from 20 obscure bands to the one grail you've probably never heard, keep a notes app open. The point isn't trivia, it's discovery. When a riff floors you or a deep cut rewires your sense of the 60/70s, drop it in the comments with your own secret weapon. I'll pin a standout list and build a companion playlist from your picks. Ready to step off the main road? Good. Let's start where the maps run out. Drop the needle on Writing on the Wall, and you can almost see the lights dim in a small Glasgow hall. This was organ-forward heavy psych/prog with a stage actor's sense of drama. Hammond chords that arrive like curtains opening, guitars soaked in overdrive rather than fuzz for a more vocal mid-range, and drums that punch squarely rather than swing. Their lone LP, The Power of the Picts, 1969, plays like a set, overture, narrative, denouement. The vocals go big, the riffs go bigger, and the arrangements leave space for the organ to comment on the story rather than simply double it. Why they matter? They welded UK theatre rock flair to the darker, heavier palette that would soon harden into early 70s prog and proto-metal. Start here. It came on a Sunday for the scene-setting organ/guitar dialogue, then Bogeyman for how they ratchet tension. Arzakel is the sound of a single high-stakes day in 1969. Future luminaries hiding behind pseudonyms, an engineer writing the red, and a band determined to bottle the kind of organ-driven psychedelic improv that usually evaporates after last call. It is a sweet, delicious morn. You get 2 modes, concise, melodic instrumentals that sketch mood with deceptive simplicity, and long pieces where the Farfisa/Hammond howls like a lead guitar, trading lines with acid-etched 6-string. The closer melts form into atmosphere, psych improvisation as slow-moving weather system.
Wintered hearts renews, and this is that my soul pursues.
Why they matter? They captured, on a shoestring and a deadline, the bridge between London club psych and the more exploratory Canterbury/underground scenes about to bloom. Start here, Azathoth for the slow, ritualistic burn, then Queen's Saint Gang to hear how melodic their writing could be when the storm clouds part. Guitarist Kazuo Takeda begins as a blues disciple and, by 1971, is sculpting riffs with a hard-edged, right-hand authority that pushes toward proto-metal. The drums are dry and forward, The bass stalks the root with menacing patience, and the guitar tone has that late 60s British bite filtered through Tokyo studios. Less room reverb, more speaker cone. On Demon and 11 Children, 1971, tempos surge and collapse like a live set. Solos are purposeful, not meandering, and the band's sense of dynamics, drop to a whisper, explode to a wall, feels years ahead of peers with bigger budgets. Why they matter? They prove that the transition from blues worship to heavy originality happened everywhere, and that Japan's heavy scene didn't need to mimic the UK to sound colossal. Start here, atomic bombs away, then the title suite for the quiet loud grammar they helped codify. Rid the mind of the novelty name, and you get a hyperkinetic Japanese hard psych/prog outfit with 2 secret weapons. Athletic Hammond/keys and tempo shifts that feel like a band racing its own shadow. On Dr. Siegel's Fried Egg Shooting Machine, 1972, the rhythm section darts rather than lumbers. Guitar lines knife through the mix, and the keys don't just pad. They solo like a horn player, stabbing syncopations into the pocket. The vibe is reckless in the best way. Fast, melodic, slightly unhinged, but tight enough to stick the landing. Why they matter? They bottle the exuberance of early 70s youth rock, proggy arrangement ideas played with GarageBand hunger. Start here, the title track for a full band sprint. Then, I Love You, to hear how they balance speed with melody. Volume 1, 1970, sounds like a late-night broadcast from a neighboring dimension. Minor key riffs, vocals that hover between chant and lament, and guitar tones dialed darker and drier than London's psych mainstream.
Sell your sins to pay for time.
The trio format gives everything an exposed wiring quality. No safety net of keyboards, just bass and drums anchoring, while guitar sketches a ritual circle around the voice. When they drop to halftime, the air pressure changes. When they surge, it feels earned.
Devil's breath, you've overstayed your lease of death.
Why they matter? They're a reminder that heavy psych could be intimate and unsettling instead of merely loud. Folk horror set to a power trio. Start here, Mystic Man for the slow dread. Appearance is everything. Style is a way of living for their jagged, slogan-like chorus craft. Got San Francisco's melodic gift right as the scene began to harden into tighter, heavier statements. Proof the coast could do muscle without losing melody. Start here. Electric Sailor, those harmonized leads. Then Disbelievant. Produced by Abe Voko Kesh, the Savage Resurrection debut, 1968, is the sound of teenagers overachieving at volume. Guitars scream with the slightly microphonic edge of hot single coils. The drums sit forward, almost punk in presence. The singer rides the chaos with a preacher's urgency. It's less about structure than momentum. Riff, break, solo, chase, and somehow the tape catches not just the parts but the kinetic charge between them. Why they matter? They embody the garage to acid pipeline in its rawest form. No grand concept, just kids playing like the room might eject them if they eased up for one bar. Start here. Thing in E, pure forward motion, then Talking to You. Beneath the notorious name is a band fluent in organ-driven UK psych, where whimsy and ministrade places mid-song. On Pussy Plays, 1969, You get pastoral melodies abruptly cross-cut with fuzz surges, drum patterns that slip from march to skip, and production choices, panned organ swells, treated vocals, that feel like a small studio trying every trick once and keeping the ones that worked. The charm is in the contrasts, nursery rhyme motifs colliding with minor key climbs that tilt the floor under your feet.
You are all my children this year.
Why they matter? They nail a very British tightrope. Childlike melody carried by arrangements that hint at storm clouds just beyond the hedgerow. Start here, we built the sun, then comets for organ heft. Elias Hulk's Unchained, 1970, lives up to its title. The guitar tone is hair-trigger hot. The rhythm section pushes air like a pub PA at its limit, and the writing toys with modal/Eastern flavors without turning into pastiche.
Floated by without a sound.
Where some contemporaries polish their heaviness, Elias Hulk leave the edges jagged, snare rattle in the room, guitar squeal between phrases, bass lines that occasionally surge ahead of the beat in a way that feels live because it is. Why they matter? They're the bar band ID of the era. No string sections, no art school gloss, just a band hitting hard and trusting that energy outruns budget. Start here, Anthology of Dreams, then Ain't Got You for their ragged boogie.
Some people say 3 days is too long.
Bodkin's self-titled 1972 Private Press LP is the stuff of collector legend. But forget the scarcity and listen to the sound. Hammond B3 at Preacher Volume. Guitar building walls rather than decorations. A rhythm section that can stomp and swing inside the same 8 bars.
Just waiting and hoping.
The long opener moves like weather. Organ themes recur in different temperatures. Guitar takes a melody and hardens it. The drummer understands that fills are architecture, not decoration. The singer? Grit with range, leaning into the band rather than floating above it.
Visions in my brain.
Why they matter? They prove that the Church of Hammond heavy prog thing wasn't just a Midlands or London phenomenon. Scotland had its own altar, and Bodkin lit the candles. Start here, 3 Days After Death, Part 1. For the sermon, stay for Part 2 to hear how they release the pressure. In early 70s Holland, a clutch of bands fused British blues bite with continental discipline. Cargo are the most slept on of the lot, a one-off, self-titled LP, 1972, built on twin guitars that don't just harmonize, they argue, echo, and chase. The rhythm section plays with that Dutch neatness, kick drum dry, bass melodic, so the solos can wander without losing the road. Sidelong passages feel improvised yet purposeful, like a live set captured at peak focus. Why they matter? They prove the European mainland wasn't just importing the heavy sound, it was refining it, tightening arrangements without sanding off attitude. Start here, finding out, for interlocking guitars and tension release dynamics. Cleveland's Granicus cut a single LP, 1973, that sounds like it was recorded with the meters in the red and the windows open to the freeway. You get arena-sized vocals, molten twin guitars, and breakneck turns where the drummer dares the band to keep up. There's a Midwestern grit here, less London swagger, more shop floor adrenaline. When the tempo drops, they still sound like they're leaning forward, just waiting for the green light. Why they matter? They capture the working-class American mutation of heavy rock, louder, faster, and built to blow out club PAs from Detroit to Youngstown. Start here, You're in America, straight to the jugular, chorus built for fist-high air. One LP, Dirt Box, 1972, and a legend outsized by its press run. Blackwater Park sit in that German scene where hard rock meets heavy prog, gritty guitar, Hammond stabs, bass lines that walk like they mean it. The production is unfussy, close mics, little sheen, which lets the riffs punch through. Decades later, the band's name became a calling card for metal crate diggers and a nod on a famous prog metal album title, and suddenly everyone went hunting for originals. Why they matter? They're a snapshot of pre-metal density. All the weight, none of the gloss. Cut in a city that knew something about concrete and echo. Start here, rock song. Truth in advertising. The riff is the law. Growers of Mushroom, 1971. Sounds like hot tubes and sweat. Swampy, swinging hard rock where the rhythm section Lopez and the guitar nicks American blues phrasing but drives it harder. Vocals ride the pocket with a mix of snarl and soul. The choruses arrive like a bar brawl's first shove. This is the record that turned from bargain bin oddity to collector grail for a reason. It's alive, even when the band downshifts into a slower burn. Why they matter? They distilled UK blues rock to its leanest, meanest form. No orchestration, no frills, just tone, timing, and a little danger. Start here, Freelance Fiend, Riff City, the moment you get them. Texas birthed a distinct heavy feel, wide open, sun-baked, a little ominous. Josephus nailed it on Dead Man. 1970 long forms that slow cook a riff until it's trance, then snap to boogie without warning. The guitar tone is sandpaper and glass. The bass never stops pushing. The vocal lives between outlaw yowl and blues lament. The title suite is the tell, Americana themes in a proto-doom silhouette, recorded like the room itself is part of the band. Why they matter? They point directly from late 60s psych to the slow/low heaviness that would explode decades later. Start here, Dead Man, the whole long piece, let it unfold. Brooklyn trio Sir Lord Baltimore come crashing out of Kingdom Come, 1970, with a speed and density that felt almost alien for the day. The drums hurtling forward, bass glued to the kick, and guitar compressing riffs into bullets created a sound that rock writers would soon start calling heavy metal. Vocals are unhinged, in a good way, and the songs refuse to meander. It's the adrenaline version of hard rock. No patience for frills, only propulsion. Why they matter? Historians can argue origins all day, but if you want to hear early metal's DNA on tape, this is where the strands align. Start here, Master Heartache, ferocious, blueprint vibes. On Andromeda, 1969, you can hear late 60s psych ballooning into early 70s prog in real time. Multi-part suites, recurring motifs, and guitars that sing melodies as often as they snarl. The vocals are theatrical without tipping into parody. The rhythm section can stomp or float, and the arrangements leave room for genuine dynamic storytelling. You're not just getting riffs, you're getting narratives. Why they matter? They bridge the era, showing how heavy guitar bands learned structure without losing voltage, a line many failed to walk. Maplitz cut 2 albums for the Vertigo label starting in 1970, and both play like a bar fight between psychedelia and the oncoming storm of hard rock. It's power trio logic, drums forward and conversational, bass loud enough to count as a second guitar, and the 6-string toggling between ragged riff and lysergic howl. They love a left turn, tempo shifts, odd bar counts, but never at the expense of swagger. Why they matter? They represent the moment of pivot when UK psych went heavy in both tone and intent, with studio craft catching up to live ferocity. Start here, smoking the day away, loose, nasty, and strangely elegant. Before prog metal had a name, High Tide were bowing electric violin over wall of guitar arrangements and calling it a day. Sea Shanties, 1969, is confrontational in the best sense. Dissonant organ and violin lines snake through chord changes. The drummer plays like he's trying to wrestle the song to the ground, and the vocals arrive with apocalyptic calm. It's heavy, but not in a blues way. It's art-heavy, carved in sharp angles and minor modes.
Vomiting their lies of truth in her youth.
Why they matter? They proved heaviness could be harmonically adventurous, seeding ideas that would flower across prog, psych folk, and extreme metal circles.
You know, bro, there's just something special about the sound of a classic rock album on vinyl. It's how these albums were originally meant to be heard, the warmth, the crackle, and the ritual of dropping the needle on the record. It's an experience that digital just can't recreate. And if you've ever wanted to dive into that classic vinyl sound, but didn't know where to start, I've got you covered. I've been checking out this Victrola Bluetooth portable suitcase turntable. It's the perfect way to get into vinyl. You just pop it open, put on a masterpiece like Led Zeppelin's 4 or Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon, and let the needle drop on that legendary groove. The best part is, it's a suitcase design, so you can literally take your rock and roll vibes anywhere. You can move it from your bedroom to the living room, or even take it to a friend's place. And it even has Bluetooth, so you can stream music from your phone when you're not spinning records. It's the best of both worlds. This is a great starting point for any fan who wants to feel the foundation of rock lore in a whole new way. If you're interested in grabbing one for yourself, I've put a link to it in the description below. Clicking that link and buying one is an awesome way to support the channel and help us keep bringing you more deep dives into the music we all love. So go check it out, and let's get back to the countdown.
It'll All Work Out in Boomland, 1970, is one of those once-in-a-lifetime debuts. Cathedral-sized guitar tone, drums that feel played by a composer, and songs that swing from bruising to beautiful without warning. The revelation is the lyric melancholy. These aren't just riff vehicles. They're songs with dynamic arcs, pastoral interludes, and choruses that haunt. The guitar work, cut by a player barely out of his teens, is equal parts melody and electricity. When the solos launch, they sing rather than shred. Why they matter? They're the culmination of this entire list. Psych imagination, prog architecture, and hard rock power in one coherent voice. Then gone almost as quickly as they arrived. Start here, no more white horses, the perfect T2 summary, and then play the album front to back. The journey doesn't end here, Rock Warrior. Watch this next. What if the most mind-bending prog epics weren't on your classic rock shelf at all, but buried in Swedish forests, Italian attics, and Eastern Bloc basements. While radio replayed the usual suspects, a parallel universe of bands was building mellotron cathedrals, odd-meter thunder, and suites so cinematic you can see the credits roll with your eyes closed. These records didn't chase hits, they carved worlds. Tonight, we're opening that hidden map. 15 obscure prog rock bands you need in your life now. From Brazil's symphonic storm chasers to Norway's analog obsessives, Poland's power trio astronauts to France's Zoltan shadow dancers. For each one, you'll get the quick backstory, what makes their sound unique, and a start here track so you can drop the needle and feel it in under a minute. Ground rules: no repeats, no filler, just dynamics, arrangement craft, and that spine tingle when a theme returns in a new key and everything clicks. Grab headphones, dim the lights, and keep a notepad, because by the end, your essential prog list is getting rewritten. Welcome to Rock Lore. Scene and stakes. Early 90s Sweden. Grunge is everywhere, but in rehearsal rooms lit by winter dusk, Anekdoten build Nordic minor key cathedrals. It's not retro cosplay. It's a temperament, melancholy melodies, tectonic rhythm shifts, and the sonic weight of a glacier calving. The sound. Anekdoten fuse King Crimson's angular bite with cello and mellotron to create a chamber prog darkness. Gritty, plectrum-driven bass high in the mix. Tom-led grooves that accelerando into crises. Guitar figures that pivot between modal drones and serrated riffs. Dynamics are everything. Quiet passages aren't rests. They're pressure drops before the next surge. Why they're overlooked? They arrive between eras, too late for the original wave, too early for streaming era rediscovery. Their debut comes out on indie labels with limited reach, and the moodiness doesn't fit radio's brightness index. Start here. Karelia, VMID, 1993. Hear the mellotron choir as a weather system and the bass as a lead instrument. What to listen for? Drum orchestration, floor tom ostinatos that become hooks, cello doubling riffs, adding grain and orchestral weight, guitars voicing 4 THS/5 THS, stacked tension without happy thirds. Legacy in one line. Anekdoten proved heaviness doesn't require distortion walls, only gravity, space, and resolve.
This video is sponsored by the Lore Store on Amazon, your one-stop shop for music lovers across reggae, rock, pop, and hip-hop. We built it for real listeners who don't want to dig through 1,000 listings to find the right gear. Inside the Lore Store, you'll find 5 aisles. VIP, top, battle-tested essentials, headphones, turntables, speakers, gig-safe earplugs, smart speakers. Reggae vibe, roots and lovers. Rock made easy, automatic decks, warm bookshelf speakers, vinyl care. Rock lore, classic rock must-haves, open back cans, simple amps, living room concert vibes. Pop lore, feel-good everyday setups, clean, clear speakers, easy streaming, nostalgia-friendly picks. Hip-hop must-haves, punchy bass without the muddle, closed-back headphones and living room systems that handle low-end, plus a rotating crate of old album vinyl if you're rebuilding a 60s-90s collection. Every product page tells you who it's for, 3 pros, 1 con, and why we picked it. So you can choose with confidence. Flying soon? Check. VIP for noise canceling that tames plane roar. Mostly listening at home? Try open-back headphones that let live albums breathe. Want instant gratification vinyl? Our fully automatic turntable is 1 button from silence to music, and the record cleaning kit knocks down crackle so the bass tightens up. Headed to shows? Grab high-fidelity earplugs, hands-free at home. Our smart speaker picks let you say, play 70s reggae or classic pop, and you're there. Deal alert. If you use the link in the description, you'll land on our curated picks with current best available Amazon pricing and active discounts where applicable. Prices change, so buy now to lock in today's deal. Tap the link in the description, pick your aisle, grab a favorite, and tell me which category you want me to build next. The Lore Store. Listen better, with gear that gets out of the way and lets the music live.
Love
Scene and Stakes. Norway, 2000s, 2010s. While most modern prog relies on digital convenience, Wobbler are analog absolutists. Mellotron tapes, Mini-Moogs, Hammond, Rickenbacker bass, acoustic piano tracked like a classical session. Yet this isn't museum music. Their writing breathes like living symphonic form. The sound. Long-form epics with 70s logic, motives stated, developed, and refracted, meters flex, 7/8 to 15/8 to 4/4, without feeling like math drills. Vocal harmonies arrive as structural beams, not frosting. Bass has that Rickenbacker clank riding the kick. Keyboards trade lead roles rather than pad. Why they're overlooked. New and vintage rarely coexist in marketing.
Silence to somewhere from a head.
Purists file them as revivalists. Casual listeners assume it's homework. Meanwhile, the records explode with melodic payoffs. Start here. From Silence to Somewhere. From Silence to Somewhere, 2017. A single-track syllabus on thematic return done right.
A web stretched out so long ago.
What to listen for. Mellotron flute/choir layers used contrapuntally, not just as pads. Cadential slowdowns that reframe earlier themes. Drums playing melodic roles with tune tom choices. Legacy in one line. Wobbler make analog gear feel like a future tense, not a costume.
I'd like to say I'm wrong. The passing years don't seem that long.
Los Angeles art prog with Broadway literacy and a cineast's ear. Fido's Xavier writes concept suites about techno dread and ecological collapse, but leads with melody, so the ideas land via hook and harmony before the libretto sinks in.
I'd like to say I'm strong. Never do I feel afraid.
The sound. Leitmotifs recur across albums. Vocal stacks carry counter melodies. Woodwinds and strings color the harmonic field, while rhythm sections keep things human, laid back, slightly behind the click. Synths are orchestral, not flashy. Guitar leads are lyrical, often singable. Why they're overlooked. American prog outside the metal or math lanes gets less press, and concept cycles can intimidate casual listeners. Fidoza's sophistication reads soft, until you follow the narrative engineering. Start here. Micro Soft Death Star. Doomsday Afternoon, 2007. Theme plus counter-theme architecture in a radio-friendly chassis. What to listen for. Motif reprises in new keys, emotional déjà vu by design. Backing vocals as moving harmony, not blocks. Text painting, arrangement choices mirroring the lyric stakes. Legacy in one line. Fido's smuggles big ideas into your ear via melody you can't shake. Scene and Stakes. Detroit Slash and Arbor, 90s. In an era suspicious of grand gestures, Discipline doubled down on theater and tension. Mellotron swells, baritone narratives, and crescendos that feel earned rather than automatic.
Heavens and a throng upon the shore.
The sound. Think Van der Graaf generator gravity with Midwestern muscle. Minor key ostinatos gather like storm fronts. Vocals teeter between intimate confession and stage declamation. The band paces climaxes with long oxygenated climbs, not jump cuts. When the Mellotron enters, it's structural, not nostalgic. Why they're overlooked. Wrong decade for grandeur. DIY distribution, limited reach.
Dark and deep and thick with clouds so spread.
The music demands full album attention, a tough sell in single economies. Start here. Canto 4, Limbo. Unfolded like Staircase, 1997. A lesson in delayed gratification. When it breaks open, it really breaks open. What to listen for. Crescendo design. Drum phrasing lengthens as layers pile up.
Here I am in limbo.
Vocal dynamics, shaping scene changes without a single key shift. Mellotron used as counter lead, not background. Legacy in one line. Discipline turned amplification into narrative, not spectacle. Scene and stakes. Canterbury Scene, 1972. Before Gong, Steve Hilliage captains a one-off that distills the scene's best traits. Psychedelic harmony, jazz-tinted chords, and a rhythm section that treats odd time like home. The sound. Space Shanty is exactly that, nautical cosmic. Chords move in extended colors, SUS shapes. Solos arc with lyric phrasing rather than chops for chops. And organ/guitar interlock and call-in response. The band can slam 6/8 into 7/8 without a hitch because the melody leads the math. Why they're overlooked? One album, poor timing, then members disperse into larger names, Hilliage gone. The record sits as a cult jewel in a crowded 1972. Start here. Space Shanty. Space Shanty, 1972. Hear how the hook returns reharmonized, making Deja Vu feel like liftoff. What to listen for? Organ comping patterns that signal meter changes. Guitar tone, violin-like sustain without losing pick articulation. Canterbury lightness, complexity that still smiles. Legacy in one line. Con is the blueprint for trippy that still composes. Scene and stakes. Belfast-based in the early 70s, Prog were crafting elegant, pastoral symphonic prog, while major UK press fixated on England's marquee names. Gigging hard, recording for Dawn Records, they built songs like watercolor landscapes interrupted by flashes of thunder. The sound. Finger-picked guitars and woodwind colors glide into symphonic swells. Melodies are lyrical, but the band isn't shy about rhythmic feints and brisk tempo pivots. Keys, piano/organ, sketch the architecture, guitar paints the edges, bass sings counter melodies. Why they're overlooked? No single defining hit. A label without the push of charisma/harvest, and the geographical remove from London's media orbit kept them cult. Start here. Decision, Future Legends, 1973. Hear the pastoral opening bloom into tight ensemble interplay without losing song sense. What to listen for? Woodwind/strings as counter themes, not decoration. Quick metric shifts that feel conversational, not mathy. Bass phrasing that answers the lead vocal. Legacy in one line. Prog proved pastoral could still crackle with electricity. Scene and stakes. Lion, late 70s. Pulsar lean into atmosphere over athletics. Long arcs, mournful melodies, and a cinematic patience that rewards listeners who slow their breathing to match the sustain. The sound. Floyd-adjacent textures meet continental symphonic sweep, sustained synth choirs, legato guitar leads, and vocals mixed as another instrument in the fog. The drums are understated, orchestrating crescendos more than driving backbeats. Why they're overlooked? Anglo-centric coverage and a mood too shadowed for radio rotation. They were album artists in a singles economy. Start here. Halloween Part 1. Halloween, 1977. A study in delayed gratification. When the theme resolves, it feels like dawn. What to listen for? Guitar vibrato as emotional punctuation. Keyboard voicings that leave space for reverb to sing. Dynamic swells mapped like film scenes. Legacy in one line. Pulsar turns silence into instrumentation. Scene and stakes. Budapest, early 80s. Behind the Iron Curtain, Solaris build instrumental sci suites that feel like paperback sci-fi covers brought to life. Adventurous, sleek, and melodic. The sound. Flute carries the hero's melody. Synths paint the cosmos. Guitar and bass lock propulsive ostinatos. Time signatures shift with narrative logic. Themes recur in new orchestrations like characters re-entering the plot. Why they're overlooked. Limited Western distribution until CD reissues. Language barriers for liner note lore. Yet the music speaks fluently without words. Start here. Marsbelly Chronicac I. The Martian Chronicles, 1984. The main motif returns in altered dress, classic Prog storytelling. What to listen for? Flute/synth unisons that split into harmony on the liftoff. Tight hi-hat work punching meter changes. Bass as melodic anchor, not just foundation. Legacy in one line. Solaris made the future sound lyrical.
You know, bro, there's just something special about the sound of a classic rock album on vinyl. It's how these albums were originally meant to be heard, the warmth, the crackle, and the ritual of dropping the needle on the record. It's an experience that digital just can't recreate. And if you've ever wanted to dive into that classic vinyl sound, but didn't know where to start, I've got you covered. I've been checking out this Victrola Bluetooth portable suitcase turntable. It's the perfect way to get into vinyl. You just pop it open, put on a masterpiece like Led Zeppelin's 4 or Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon, and let the needle drop on that legendary groove. The best part is, it's a suitcase design, so you can literally take your rock and roll vibes anywhere. You can move it from your bedroom to the living room, or even take it to a friend's place. And it even has Bluetooth, so you can stream music from your phone when you're not spinning records. It's the best of both worlds. This is a great starting point for any fan who wants to feel the foundation of rock lore in a whole new way. If you're interested in grabbing one for yourself, I've put a link to it in the description below. Clicking that link and buying one is an awesome way to support the channel and help us keep bringing you more deep dives into the music we all love. So go check it out, and let's get back to the countdown.
Scene and stakes. Silesia, 1970s, 80s. SBB, Sukaj, Burrs, Buduj, Seek, Break, Build, fuse symphonic scope with jazz rock agility and Space Jam instincts. Pink Floyd meets Mahavishnu via Katowice. The sound. Organ and mini Moog thunder. Drums breathe like a jazz kit. Guitar alternates between lyrical sustain and biting staccato. Suites evolve organically. Song improv plateau thematic return that lands like home. Why they're overlooked. Cold War borders, scarce vinyl outside Eastern Europe, and a catalog that shines brightest on full-length journeys. Start here. Memento Z Banalnim Triptychium, Suite. Memento Z Banalnim Triptychium, 1980. A clinic in tension and release. What to listen for. Drum phrasing lengthening into climaxes. Mini Moog leads with vocal phrasing. Ensemble dynamics. Everyone breaks together. Legacy in one line. SBB proved a trio could sound orchestral without a string section. Scene and stakes. Naples, 1972. Il Balletto di Bronzo Drop YS. An Avant symphonic fever dream where Italian drama collides with precision chops. Volatile, virtuosic, unforgettable. The sound. Organ, clavinet / synth flurries, metric hairpins, and operatic intensity. themes mutate aggressively. Cadences dodge resolution until a final, cathartic release. Why they're overlooked. Too wild for casual listeners, too Italian-specific for UK/US press at the time. A single album at this level becomes cult rather than canon. Start here. Introduzione, YS, 1972. Shock and awe right out of the gate. What to listen for. Keyboard voicings that knife through the mix. Drums telegraphing turns with quick setups. Theatrical dynamic contrasts. Whisper to blitz in seconds. Legacy in one line. Il balletto di bronzo made virtuosity feel dangerous. Scene and stakes. Liguria, 1973. Museo Rosenbach released Zarathustra, a Nietzsche-inspired suite with Hammond/Mellotron mass and razor-edged ensemble shifts, a cornerstone of rock progressivo Italiano. The sound, monumental themes, tight rhythmic dovetails, baritone vocals that ride the storm rather than surf it. Mellotron isn't a pad, it's architecture. Guitar doubles lines for weight. Drums keep odd meters danceable. Why they're overlooked. Controversial concept, label limitations, and the RPI boom's sheer volume of releases. Outside Italy, they were a rumor until reissues. Start here. Zarathustra, Suite, Zarathustra, 1973. A four-part ascent that never loses narrative thread. What to listen for. Mellotron choir versus strings and call-in response. Bass counterlines propelling turns. Cadential hits that feel like architectural buttresses. Legacy in one line. Museo Rosenbach turned philosophy into kinetic sound. Scene and stakes. Nice, 1978. Shylock operate in the instrumental dusk between symphonic prog and magma zool, hypnotic ostinatos, angular guitars, and long-form arcs that bloom without a single lyric. The sound. Interlocked patterns build tension plateaus, drums sculpt growth with subtle orchestrations, and keys switch from icy arpeggios to thick chords when it's time to crest. Why they're overlooked. Instrumental and moody in a scene-chasing flash, with distribution that never cut deep into Anglophone markets. Start here. Le Quatrième, Alda Fivra, 1978. 12 minutes of controlled rise. What to listen for. Guitar shapes and fourths for that modern bite. Ostinatos that evolve via subtraction/addition, not key changes alone. Drums cueing phrase length expansions. Legacy in one line. Shylock teaches patience as a weapon. Scene and stakes. Early, 70s Britain. Nidralog put oboe and recorder next to razor guitars and theatrical vocals, moving from pastoral to gale force inside a verse. The sound. Chamber timbres meet rock dynamics. Woodwinds don't soften, they sharpen, and the band pivots to sudden fortissimo without losing coherence. Lyrics lean poetic, arrangements cinematic. Why they're overlooked. 2 albums, little chart action, and the flood of UK prog releases in 71 to 72 made them a collector's whisper. Start here. Long Live Man Dead. In Spite of Harry's Toenail, 1972. Beauty edged with steel. What to listen for. Woodwinds as counter rhythms, not pads. Abrupt dynamics as narrative, not gimmick. Vocal phrasing that lands on drum accents. Legacy in one line. Nidralog made pastoral dangerous again.
A vida estanca na rua, as almas se
Scene and Stakes. Rio de Janeiro, recorded early 80s, released mid-80s. Bacamart's Depois do FIM merges classical guitar poise with symphonic muscle and Brazilian rhythmic grace, sunlight and storm in the same frame.
transformam nos corpos que loucos se atiram à lua.
The sound. Singing lead guitar, agile bass, keyboards with orchestral intent, and dynamic turns that feel like coastal weather changes. Melodies are vocal grade even when no one is singing. Why they're overlooked. Timing. 1983 is late for first-wave prog press, and limited distribution beyond Brazil until the CD era. Yet word of mouth kept it alive. Start here. Ultimo Entardecer. Depois do FIM, 1983. Here melodic generosity plus compositional backbone. What to listen for. Guitar vibrato and slides as speech. Rhythmic undercurrents borrowing from Brazilian feel without pastiche. Theme returns in Brighton keys for lift. Legacy in one line. Bacamart made symphonic grandeur sing.
This video is sponsored by the Lore Store on Amazon, your one-stop shop for music lovers across reggae, rock, pop, and hip-hop. We built it for real listeners who don't want to dig through 1,000 listings to find the right gear. Inside the Lore Store, you'll find 5 aisles. VIP, top, battle-tested essentials. Headphones, turntables, speakers, gig-safe earplugs, smart speakers. Reggae vibe, roots and lovers. Rock made easy, automatic decks, warm bookshelf speakers, vinyl care. Rock lore, classic rock must-haves, open back cans, simple amps, living room concert vibes. Pop lore, feel-good everyday setups, clean, clear speakers, easy streaming, nostalgia-friendly picks. Hip-hop must-haves, punchy bass without the muddle, closed-back headphones and living room systems that handle low-end, plus a rotating crate of old album vinyl if you're rebuilding a 60s-90s collection. Every product page tells you who it's for, 3 pros, 1 con, and why we picked it. So you can choose with confidence. Flying soon? Check. VIP for noise canceling that tames plane roar. Mostly listening at home? Try open-back headphones that let live albums breathe. Want instant gratification vinyl? Our fully automatic turntable is 1 button from silence to music, and the record cleaning kit knocks down crackle so the bass tightens up. Headed to shows? Grab high-fidelity earplugs, hands-free at home. Our smart speaker picks let you say, play 70s reggae or classic pop, and you're there. Deal alert. If you use the link in the description, you'll land on our curated picks with current best available Amazon pricing and active discounts where applicable. Prices change, so buy now to lock in today's deal. Tap the link in the description, pick your aisle, grab a favorite, and tell me which category you want me to build next. The Lore Store. Listen better, with gear that gets out of the way and lets the music live.
Scene and Stakes. Stockholm, 1992. While the world moshes, Anglagard resurrect the art of dynamic through composed symphonic prog, acoustic interludes, mellotron squalls, and odd meter surges mapped like a mountain trail.
Och vi flyr verklighet och sanningar.
The sound. Bass is a lead instrument. Drums orchestrate with toms. Guitar's voice chordal stacks. Folk-tinged motifs reappear in transformed dress. Quiet is an absence. Its intake of breath before the avalanche. Why they're overlooked. 90s timing, indie distribution, and a refusal to dilute. They weren't retro, they were continuation. Start here. George Rock, Hybris, 1992. 14 minutes that feel like weather and topography. What to listen for. Theme metamorphosis across sections. Mellotron choir / strings as structural beams. Bass / guitar counter leading instead of doubling. Legacy in one line. Angligard didn't revive Prog, they reproved its power. The journey doesn't end here, Rock Warrior. Watch this next. Classic rock history is often told through familiar names: the Stones, Zeppelin, The Who. But beneath the spotlight were dozens of British bands who ruled at home, packed theaters, and sold records. Yet in America, they were little more than whispers. Today, we start our journey with the cult outliers, 5 bands who had everything: the riffs, the attitude, the loyal fans. Britain screamed their names. America shrugged. Formation and sound. Emerging from London in the late 80s, the Choir Boys blended old-school blues with Bassist-style swagger. Imagine Rod Stewart fronting a bar band with a shot of whiskey in one hand and a broken pint glass in the other. Their sound was sleazy, soulful, and pure pub rock revival. Breakthrough. Their debut album, A Bit of What You Fancy, 1990, hit number 2 on the UK charts. Songs like 7 O'Clock and Hey You captured the grit of smoky bars and the romantic chaos of rock and roll. Behind the scenes, managed by Sharon Osbourne at one point, the Choir Boys seemed destined to crack the US market. But by the time they toured America, Seattle had exploded. Nirvana and Pearl Jam made denim, cowboy boots, and barroom boogie look ancient overnight. Cultural impact. In Britain, they became cult heroes, headlining festivals, reuniting multiple times, and surviving decades of changing trends. In the States, they were lost in the shuffle, victims of bad timing rather than bad music. Headphone listening cue. 7 O'Clock, live at Hammersmith Odeon. Pure sweaty pub rock energy.
One, you don't need to worry. There'll be days like this.
Formed in Belfast in 1964, them were raw, restless, and snarling. Their sound was garage rock before the term even existed, gritty R&B fused with Celtic edge.
One, there'll be days you don't need to worry like this.
Signature song, Gloria, 1964. 3 chords, primal energy, shouted teenage lust. It's been covered by everyone from The Doors to Patti Smith.
One, you don't need to days like this. Worry, there'll be one no.
Behind the scenes, young Van Morrison was already a storm on stage.
One, there'll be days you don't need to worry like this.
Legend says audiences in Belfast were torn between awe and fear when he sang, his eyes closed, his body trembling like a man possessed.
One, you don't, there'll be days like this. Don't need to worry. One, no.
But the band fell apart quickly. Disputes with management, poor U.S. touring opportunities, and Morrison's solo ambitions ended them before they could fully break out abroad.
One, you don't, there'll be days like this. Don't need to worry. One, no.
Cultural impact. In Europe, Gloria became an anthem for garage and punk bands to come.
There'll be days like one, you don't need to worry.
In the U.S., ironically, the song became iconic through American covers, while the band who birthed it stayed largely unknown.
There'll be days like this. You don't need to worry.
Headphone listening cue, Gloria, Them, 1964, followed by Patti Smith's 1975 version. See how influence outshone origin. Formation and sound. Hailing from Oxford, the Candyskins formed in 1989. They fused jangly guitars with sharp pop hooks, music that foreshadowed the Britpop explosion of the mid-90s. Highlights. Songs like Submarine Song and Space I'm In earned them UK chart attention and a loyal cult fanbase. They had the hooks Oasis and Blur would later weaponize into stadium anthems. Record label bankruptcies, poor promotion, and the grunge wave killing anything melodic on American airwaves. By the time Britpop hit big, newer Oxford contemporaries like Radiohead stole the spotlight. Cultural impact. In Britain, they remain beloved among collectors of early Britpop-era gems. In America, they're virtually unknown, a band erased by circumstance. Headphone listening cue, Space I'm In, a glimpse of the Britpop promise before Oasis mania. Formation and sound. Liverpool's The LAs, led by Lee Mavers, were notorious perfectionists. Their jangly, Birds-inspired guitar pop had clarity and beauty rare for the late 80s. Signature song, There She Goes, 1988, often called one of the greatest indie songs ever written. Pure, clean, almost fragile, yet eternal. Behind the scenes, the LAs imploded almost as quickly as they arrived. Mavers hated the production on their only album and refused to record another. He became rock's great recluse, sabotaging his own legacy. Cultural impact. In Britain, There She Goes is practically holy scripture in indie circles. In America, they were dismissed as one-hit wonders, their brilliance reduced to a trivia answer. Headphone listening cue, There She Goes. Listen closely, it sounds like it could have been written yesterday. Formation and sound. From Liverpool, Marseille formed in 1976 and were among the first bands in the new wave of British heavy metal in WOBHM. Their sound was raw, riff-heavy, and full of youthful aggression. Highlights. Their self-titled debut, 1978, is a hidden gem, a blueprint for what Def Leppard and Iron Maiden would later perfect. Behind the scenes, Marseille won a national battle of the bands contest, earning a recording contract. But poor distribution, weak label support, and the overwhelming rise of bigger in WOBHM names left them forgotten. Cultural impact. In Britain, They're remembered by die-hard metal historians as unsung pioneers. In America, they never stood a chance, overshadowed before they even arrived. Headphone listening cue. The French way, raw and WOBHM fire before the big names took over.
We're only making plans for Nigel.
Formation and sound. Emerging from Swindon in the late 70s, XTC began as a quirky new wave band with jerky rhythms and eccentric lyrics.
Making plans for Nigel. We're only making.
By the 1980s, they had evolved into masters of clever, melodic post-punk pop.
Making plans for Nigel. We're only making.
Signature songs. Making Plans for Nigel, 1979. Satire wrapped in a catchy chorus.
Plans for Nigel. We're only making.
Senses Working Overtime, 1982. Pure pop craftsmanship, brimming with wit and wordplay.
Making plans for Nigel. We're only making.
Behind the scenes, Andy Partridge, the band's leader, struggled with crippling stage fright. In 1982, during an American tour, he collapsed and refused to perform again.
We're only making plans for Nigel.
That one decision effectively doomed their U.S. career. They became a studio-only band.
We're only making plans for Nigel.
Cultural impact. In the UK, XTC were critics' darlings and inspired generations of alternative bands.
We're plans for Nigel. Only making.
In the US, they remained a cult band, beloved by musicians, but barely known to the public.
We're only making plans for Nigel.
Headphone listening cue. Senses working overtime. Hear pop genius too clever for radio programmers.
Scenes behind the movie scene. Sabirani.
Formation and sound. Formed in Leicester in 1991 by Jinder Singh, Corner Shop blended Indian rhythms, sitars, and Hindi lyrics with British indie rock.
Behind the movie scene. Sabirani. She's the one.
It was East meets West long before fusion was fashionable.
Scenes behind the movie scene. Sabirani. She's the
Signature song, Brimful of Asha, 1997, a tribute to Bollywood playback singer Asha Bhosle.
scenes behind the movie scene. Sabirani. She's
It hit #1 in the UK after Norman Cook, Fatboy Slim, remixed it.
scenes behind the movie scene. Sabirani. She's the one
Behind the scenes, their music wasn't just catchy, it was political.
behind the movie scene. Sabirani. She's the one with
Corner Shop openly challenged racism in Britain, turning their songs into subtle acts of protest.
behind the movie scene. Sabirani. She's the one with
In the US, however, their cultural references flew over most heads.
behind the movie scene. Sabirani. She's the one
MTV played the video sparingly, and American radio didn't know where to slot them.
scenes behind the movie scene. Sabirani. She's the
Cultural impact. In Britain, they were proof that immigrant culture was reshaping rock and roll.
behind the movie scene. Sabirani. She's the one with
In America, they remained an obscure curiosity, despite undeniable influence.
scenes behind the movie scene. Sabirani. She's
Headphone listening cue, Brimful of Asha, Fatboy Slim remix. The sound of Britain in the late 90s.
So call the police. Follow it.
Formation and sound. Fronted by Damon Albarn, with Graham Coxon's guitar wizardry, Blur epitomized Britpop's playful yet biting style.
So call the police.
Their music skewered British culture with wit and swagger.
So call the police. Following the
Signature songs. Park Life, 1994, a cheeky slice of British life, narrated with irony and joy.
So call the police. Following the
Song 2, 1997. Ironically, their only major American hit, embraced because of its raw, woohoo chorus.
So call the police. Following the
Behind the scenes, Blur's feud with Oasis defined an era of British music.
So call the police. Following the
But while Oasis stormed US stadiums with swaggering anthems, Blur's distinctly English humor didn't translate.
So call the police. Following the
Albarn later reinvented himself with Gorillaz, finally breaking into the US, but Blur's catalog stayed underrated overseas.
So call the police. Following
Cultural impact. In Britain, Blur were cultural commentators, chronicling everything from working-class life to cool Britannia.
So call the police. Following
In America, they were the Song 2 band.
So call the police. Following the
Headphone listening cue. Park Life. To understand why Blur were Britain's mirror, not America's. Formation and sound. Formed in 1974, the Stranglers straddled punk, new wave, and gothic experimentation. Their sound was aggressive yet sophisticated, with Dave Greenfield's keyboards giving them a unique identity. Signature songs. Peaches, 1977. Sleazy, menacing, unforgettable. Golden Brown, 1982. A harpsichord-led ballad about heroin, written like a waltz. Behind the scenes, they were outsiders in every scene. Too aggressive for new wave, too experimental for punk purists, too unpredictable for mainstream radio. In the US, program directors didn't know what to do with them. Were they punk, pop, prog? The confusion left them sidelined. Cultural impact. In Britain, they scored 23 UK top 40 singles. In America, they were cult at best, despite influencing post-punk, goth, and alternative bands. Headphone listening cue, Golden Brown, a surreal chart topper America never understood.
feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Formation and sound. Scottish frontman Alex Harvey was part preacher, part showman, part madman.
Feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Backed by Zal Clemenson in clown makeup and a powerhouse band, SHB turned rock concerts into surreal theater.
Feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Signature songs. Faith Healer, 1973. Hypnotic riffs and Harvey's wild-eyed vocals.
Feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Next, a Jacques Brel cover delivered like a carnival nightmare.
Everybody's feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Behind the scenes, Harvey saw rock not as just music, but performance art.
Everybody's feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Every show was a circus, half comedy, half menace. America, however, didn't bite.
Feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Their theatricality confused promoters, and without radio hits, they remained UK cult heroes.
Feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Cultural impact. In Britain, they influenced everyone from AC/DC to punk bands who admired their fearless performances.
Body's feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
In the US, they were virtually invisible. Yet ask any die-hard classic rock fan, and Saab's name is spoken with awe.
Feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Headphone listening cue. Faith Healer, live. Proof that rock and roll can be as strange as it is powerful.
Body's feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Some bands are too strange to ever go mainstream.
My body's feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
Others, they had the hits, the crowds, the gold records, everything.
Body's feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
At home in Britain, they were massive, chart-topping forces.
Feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
But in America, they were footnotes, often remembered for one song, or not at all.
Body's feeling glad, and it's the only one you had.
These are the chart giants at home, shadows abroad. The bands who proved you can be a legend in one country and a ghost in another. Formation and sound. Formed in Oxford in 1993, Supergrass were the youngest, cheekiest faces of Britpop. Their sound was high-octane, melodic, and irresistibly fun, a mix of punk energy and Beatles-esque pop hooks. Signature songs. All Right, 1995, an anthem of youth, optimism, and carefree mischief. Caught by the Fuzz, a teenage tale of getting busted, delivered with raw punk energy. Behind the scenes. In Britain, their debut I Should Coco went platinum, and they quickly became festival headliners. In America, however, Britpop was already a hard sell. Oasis and Blur hogged the headlines, leaving little room for a third wave. Supergrass toured, but US radio never truly embraced them. Cultural impact. They became Britpop's fun band, the ones who reminded everyone that rock could still be joyous. In the US, they were lumped in with a vague Britpop label remembered only by the few who dug deeper. Headphone listening cue. All right, the sound of 1990s Britain's youthful optimism.
Do you remember chalk hearts melting on a playground wall?
Formation and sound. Born in the early 80s, Marillion carried the torch of progressive rock into a new decade. With singer Fish at the helm, they mixed theatrical lyrics with lush, sprawling arrangements. Signature songs. Kaylee, 1985. Their one brush with international fame, reaching the Billboard Hot 100. Lavender and Script for a Jester's Tear cemented their cult following. Behind the scenes. At home, they were arena fillers. Misplaced Childhood, 1985, topped the UK charts and sold millions. In the US, however, prog was considered outdated by the 80s.
Do you remember chalk hearts melting on a playground wall?
MTV and radio were focused on hair metal and synth pop.
Do you remember chalk hearts melting on a playground wall?
Marillion were too complex, too British, too out of step with American trends.
Do you remember chalk hearts melting on a playground wall?
Cultural impact. They built one of the most loyal fan bases in rock, pioneering fan-funded albums decades before Kickstarter.
Remember chalk hearts melting on a playground wall? Do you remember?
In the US, they remain a cult curiosity, known only for Kaylee. Headphone listening cue. Kaylee, a reminder that prog never really died, it just found a new voice. Formation and sound. Founded by Ray and Dave Davies in 1963, the Kinks helped invent hard rock with You Really Got Me. Their mix of biting riffs and social satire made them one of Britain's most important bands. Signature songs. Waterloo Sunset, 1967, hailed as one of the greatest songs of all time. Lola, 1970, witty, subversive, and unforgettable. Behind the scenes. In 1965, the Kinks were banned from touring the US due to union disputes and rowdy on-stage behavior. The ban lasted 4 years, the exact years when the British invasion was exploding. By the time they returned in 1969, the Beatles, Stones, and who had already cemented themselves as America's rock royalty. Cultural impact. In Britain, the Kinks were folk heroes, chronicling everyday life with humor and melancholy. In America, they became underdogs, respected, but never given the stadium-level acclaim they deserved. Headphone listening cue, Waterloo Sunset, a masterpiece of British songwriting largely overlooked across the Atlantic. Were ambitious from the start, for working-class kids with eyeliner, leather jackets, and slogans scrawled across their clothes.
So if I can't shoot rabbits, then I can't shoot fat.
They promised one iconic album, then to break up. Instead, they became one of Britain's most enduring bands. Cycle Emptiness, a melancholic hymn to consumer culture.
So if I can't shoot rabbits, then I can't shoot fat.
Behind the scenes, the disappearance of guitarist Richie Edwards in 1995 cast a long shadow over the band, adding myth to their music.
So if I can't shoot rabbits, then I can't shoot fat.
In the UK, their albums hit #1 multiple times, making them political and cultural voices.
So if I can't shoot rabbits, then I can't shoot.
In the US, their lyrics were seen as too intellectual, too British.
So if I can't shoot rabbits, then I can't shoot fat.
Radio programmers didn't know what to do with references to socialist manifestos and Welsh working-class politics.
So if I can't shoot rabbits, then I can't shoot.
Cultural impact. They were not just a band, but a voice for a nation often ignored within Britain itself.
So if I can't shoot rabbits, then I can't shoot fat.
In the US, they remain a name whispered by critics, not shouted by fans.
So if I can't shoot rabbits, then I can't shoot fat.
Headphone listening cue, a design for life, an anthem that deserves to echo in stadiums everywhere.
Fire in water must have made
Formation and sound. Formed in London in 1968, Free combined blues grit with soulful vocals. Paul Rodgers' voice, smooth yet raw, made him one of the greatest rock singers of his generation. Signature song, All Right Now, 1970, a stadium anthem, still a radio staple worldwide. Behind the scenes. At home, Free were stars. They sold out venues, played the Isle of Wight Festival, and earned a reputation for electrifying live shows. In the US, however, All Right Now overshadowed their deeper catalog. They were unfairly labeled a one-hit wonder. Internal tensions, drug problems, and lineup instability cut short their rise just as they might have broken into America properly. Cultural impact. In Britain, Free are remembered as pioneers who bridged blues and hard rock. In America, their legacy is frozen in a single song. Headphone listening cue. Mr. Big, live at the Isle of Wight. Proof that Free were more than just one hit. We've seen the cult heroes, the quirky innovators, and the chart giants who never broke America. But now we arrive at the biggest shock of all, the missed legends. These weren't just popular bands, they were giants. They sold millions, filled arenas, defined eras. In Britain, their names are carved into rock history. In America, they barely registered. From punk pioneers to glam titans, from boogie rock kings to Christmas immortals, these are the top 5 British classic rock legends that America ignored.
It's kinda strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why.
Formation and sound. Formed in 1976, the Damned were anarchic, witty, and fast.
It's kinda strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why.
They didn't just ride the punk wave, they started it.
It's kinda strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why.
Milestones. Released New Rose in 1976, the first UK punk single, even before the Sex Pistols or The Clash.
It's kinda strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why.
Behind the scenes. Yet despite their trailblazing, the Damned were overshadowed by louder narratives, the Pistols' chaos and the Clash's politics.
It's kinda strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why.
Their gothic theatrics and experimental streak confused US.
It's kinda strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why.
Audiences who wanted either pure rebellion or clean-cut new wave.
It's kinda strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why.
Cultural impact. In Britain, they helped launch punk, then pivoted into gothic rock, influencing bands like The Cure and Susie and the Banshees.
It's kinda strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why.
In America, they became cult icons, never household names.
It's kinda strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why.
Headphone listening cue. New Rose, punk's opening salvo that America forgot. Formation and sound. Mark Bolan was Britain's glittering messiah of glam rock. With feather boas, platform boots, and cosmic lyrics, T-Rex defined an entire movement. Signature songs: Get It On, Bang a Gong, 20th Century Boy, Children of the Revolution. Behind the scenes, in Britain, they triggered T-Rex, screaming fans, sold-out shows, and non-stop chart toppers. In America, Only Get It On broke through. The US simply wasn't ready for glam. Too theatrical, too androgynous, too British. Cultural impact: without T-Rex, there is no glam rock as we know it. Bowie, Kiss, even hair metal in the 80s, Bolan's fingerprints are everywhere. But in America, his legacy is mostly known through influence, not direct recognition. Headphone listening cue: 20th Century Boy, a glam anthem that deserved stadiums in the US.
It's all too beautiful. It's all too beautiful.
Formation and sound. Formed in 1965, the Small Faces were the ultimate mod band before evolving into psychedelic pioneers.
It's all too beautiful. It's all too beautiful.
Signature songs: Itchy-Coo Park, a trippy masterpiece with pioneering use of flanging.
It's all too beautiful. It's all too beautiful.
All or Nothing and Tin Soldier cemented them as hitmakers.
It's all too beautiful. It's all too beautiful.
Behind the scenes, Steve Marriott's powerhouse vocals, Ronnie Lane's songwriting, and their mod image made them legends in Britain.
It's all too beautiful. It's all too beautiful.
But US audiences barely noticed, overshadowed by The Who, The Stones, and later by their own spin-off band, The Faces, with Rod Stewart.
Beautiful. It's all too beautiful.
Cultural impact. In Britain, they're immortal. Their album Ogden's Nut Gone Flake is considered a psychedelic classic. In America, their story is mostly a blank space.
It's all too beautiful. It's all too beautiful.
Headphone listening cue: Itchy-Coo Park, psychedelia in 3 minutes flat. Formation and sound. Founded in 1962, Status Quo evolved into Britain's boogie rock juggernaut. Their sound was simple, driving riffs, no-frills grooves, and endless energy. Signature songs: Rockin' All Over the World, Down Down, Whatever You Want. Behind the scenes. In the UK, they scored over 60 chart hits. They opened Live Aid in 1985 with Rockin' All Over the World. They were national treasures. In America, radio programmers dismissed them as repetitive. Their straightforward boogie didn't fit US trends. Too bluesy for hard rock, too raw for pop. Cultural impact. They remain one of Britain's most consistent and best-loved bands, still touring decades later. In the US, their name means almost nothing outside diehard fans. Headphone listening cue: Whatever You Want, a festival anthem America never claimed.
You know, bro, there's just something special about the sound of a classic rock album on vinyl. It's how these albums were originally meant to be heard, the warmth, the crackle, and the ritual of dropping the needle on the record. It's an experience that digital just can't recreate. And if you've ever wanted to dive into that classic vinyl sound, but didn't know where to start, I've got you covered. I've been checking out this Victrola Bluetooth portable suitcase turntable. It's the perfect way to get into vinyl. You just pop it open, put on a masterpiece like Led Zeppelin's 4 or Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon, and let the needle drop on that legendary groove. The best part is, it's a suitcase design, so you can literally take your rock and roll vibes anywhere. You can move it from your bedroom to the living room, or even take it to a friend's place. And it even has Bluetooth, so you can stream music from your phone when you're not spinning records. It's the best of both worlds. This is a great starting point for any fan who wants to feel the foundation of rock lore in a whole new way. If you're interested in grabbing one for yourself, I've put a link to it in the description below. Clicking that link and buying one is an awesome way to support the channel and help us keep bringing you more deep dives into the music we all love. So go check it out, and let's get back to the countdown.
Slade were Britain's loudest, proudest glam rockers. Frontman Noddy Holder's raspy roar, mirrored top hats, and thunderous riffs made them stadium gods in the UK. Signature songs, Come On Feel the Noise, Mama We're All Crazy Now, Merry Xmas Everybody. Behind the scenes, in the 1970s they were unbeatable. 17 consecutive top 20 hits, 6 UK number ones, and sold out arenas. But in America, glam rock was a niche. Slade's working-class image and deliberately misspelled song titles baffled critics. Only in the 1980s did Americans indirectly discover them, through Quiet Riot, whose covers of Come On Feel the Noise and Mama We're All Crazy now finally made those songs US hits. Cultural impact. In Britain, they're legends. Merry Xmas. Everybody is still sung by millions every December. In America, they remain the band Quiet Riot covered. Listening cue. Come On Feel the Noise. Slade in their raw, thunderous glory. The journey doesn't end here, rock warrior. Watch this next. Rock history loves its legends. Dark Side, Nevermind, London Calling. But the real blueprint often hides in the shadows. Tonight, we're pulling the tape off 15 albums that quietly rewired everything, from motoric grooves and proto-punk meltdowns to the birth of post-rock. No hype, no nostalgia goggles, just the records your favorite bands stole from. You'll hear how GIs in Germany invented anti-pop, how homemade oscillators became synth rock, how hushed whispers beat arena shouts, and why these overlooked LPs still shape indie, punk, and electronic music today. If you've rinsed the classics and think there's nothing left to discover, this list will mess with your map. These aren't B-sides, they're the missing chapters. This is Rock Lore. Subscribe, hit the bell, and let's drop the needle on 15 rock albums that changed music forever, but nobody talks about them. Mid-60s Germany. 5 American GIs, discharged but still stranded in a foreign club circuit, decide to de-glamorize rock. They shave monk-style tonsures, wire a banjo with a pickup, and treat rhythm like a weapon. This is the Monks, far outside London and San Francisco, and they're about to invent abrasion years before punk has a name. The album opens with a declaration of war, Monk Time. Drums pound square and hard, bass plays short, brutal figures, organ smears like a warning siren, guitar chops at the bar line. The wired banjo isn't for twang, it's percussive shrapnel.
Long, long time today.
In 1966, when rock favored melody and mystique, The monks choose minimalism and confrontation. Repeat the riff, strip harmony, push the beat forward. They anticipate punk's blunt language and krautrock's hypnosis in one move. Count the negative space between chords. Notice how the vocal sits bone dry, almost anti-singing. Hear the drum pattern refuse swing. It's a locked march. That's the future of tension. Barely a commercial ripple at first, but a deep blueprint later. The sound of bands who swap virtuosity for intent. If the monks learn to make electricity bark, the next duo teaches electricity to pulse. This video is sponsored by the Lore Store on Amazon, your one-stop shop for music lovers across reggae, rock, pop, and hip-hop. We built it for real listeners who don't want to dig through 1,000 listings to find the right gear. Inside the Lore Store, you'll find 5 aisles. VIP, top, battle-tested essentials. Headphones, turntables, speakers, gig-safe earplugs, smart speakers. Reggae vibe, roots and lovers. Rock made easy, automatic decks, warm bookshelf speakers, vinyl care. Rock lore, classic rock must-haves, open back cans, simple amps, living room concert vibes. Pop lore, feel-good everyday setups, clean, clear speakers, easy streaming, nostalgia-friendly picks. Hip-hop must-haves, punchy bass without the muddle, closed-back headphones and living room systems that handle low-end, plus a rotating crate of old album vinyl if you're rebuilding a 60s-90s collection. Every product page tells you who it's for, 3 pros, 1 con, and why we picked it. So you can choose with confidence. Flying soon? Check. VIP for noise canceling that tames plane roar. Mostly listening at home? Try open-back headphones that let live albums breathe. Want instant gratification vinyl? Our fully automatic turntable is 1 button from silence to music, and the record cleaning kit knocks down crackle so the bass tightens up. Headed to shows? Grab high-fidelity earplugs, hands-free at home. Our smart speaker picks let you say, play 70s reggae or classic pop, and you're there. Deal alert! If you use the link in the description, you'll land on our curated picks with current best available Amazon pricing and active discounts where applicable. Prices change, so buy now to lock in today's deal. Tap the link in the description, pick your aisle, grab a favorite, and tell me which category you want me to build next. The Lore Store. Listen better, with gear that gets out of the way and lets the music live. New York City, 1968. 2 men, drummer Danny Taylor and Simeon Cox, who builds a rig of oscillators and christens it the Simeon. No guitars, just homemade electronics and a human groove. On Oscillations, sine waves wobble like alien theremins, while the kit locks a metronomic pocket. Vocals float, dry and direct. The songs are motivic loops, not verse-chorus showpieces. They plant a flag for electronic rock years before it's mainstream, bridging psych, minimalism, and future synth pop. The lesson: a song can be a circuit. Hear the oscillator drift, small pitch bends that feel human, not machine perfect. The drums never overplay, they make the machine dance. Ignored by radio, mythologized by musicians. You can draw a straight line from these oscillators to krautrock experiments, DIY synth pop, and bedroom producers. Composer Joseph Bird assembles a group of experimental players and singer Dorothy Moskowitz. The toolkit: tape collages, ring modulators, electric violin, keyboards, no guitars, and a taste for the political avant-garde. The American Metaphysical Circus is a carnival of samples and drone, marching band fragments disintegrating into electronics. Elsewhere, songs bloom from treated violin, fuzzed bass, and musique concrète interludes. They prove rock energy can live outside guitar heroics. Texture becomes hook, arrangement becomes argument. Art rock and experimental pop take notes. The ring mod tearing on sustained tones, the way voices stack like political pamphlets being stapled. Percussion that feels assembled from a lab, not a garage. Too strange for the charts. Essential for anyone who thinks rock can be composed as much as performed. If the USA album made texture the hook, the next record makes motion the song. Dusseldorf, post-Kraftwerk duo. Michael Rother and Klaus Dinger connect with producer Connie Plank. Their thesis, point the car forward and never lift your foot. Call it motoric. The 10 minutes of Hallo Gallo are a study in propulsion. The Dinger beat, boom chak, unbroken. Bass a gentle conveyor belt. Guitar and keys painting passing scenery. They invent a grammar of forward motion, repetition that transforms from monotony to trance. Bowie, Eno, Stereolab, post-rock, all draw fuel here. The discipline, no cymbal crashes to reset your ear, no blues licks to detour your mind. Tiny timbral changes become events. That's the new trick. From indie to electronica, whenever a band learns that space plus repetition, Agus revelation, knows tachometer is in the red. Memphis, Ardent Studios. Big Star's momentum is gone. The band itself is a rumor. Alex Chilton and drummer Jody Stevens work with producer Jim Dickinson on songs that sound like the night after the party. Strings that sigh, piano slightly out of square, guitars that jangle then wilt. Kangaroo feels like a room with one lamp on. Holocaust is a slow exhale you can't interrupt. The studio becomes a diary, not a stage. Where classic rock chased gloss. Third chases quiet collapse. It pioneers the language of indie and slowcore. Fragility as strength, tape hiss as atmosphere, mistakes as meaning. The air around the voice, the unpolished edits that leave fingerprints, string arrangements that caress but never rescue. Emotion isn't sung at you, it leaks through the mix. Not a hit, but a handbook. From Elliott Smith to 90s college rock, the idea that vulnerability can be the loudest instrument lives here. Brisbane, 1977. A band from a humid, isolated city detonates in parallel with London and New York. I'm. Stranded isn't a postcard from the UK first wave. It's proof punk was a temperature, not a postcode.
I've got no direction, and I'm stranded on my own. And without you, play the man thing I can't do. You lost your mind stuck in a way.
Chris Bailey's vocal comes half sneer, half yell. Ed Kwepper's guitar is a siren that never winds down. The rhythm section pitches the whole thing forward like a bike with no brakes. The DIY single forced London tastemakers to pay attention. The album that followed kept the velocity and lived in menace.
On my own. Stranded far from.
Notice how the guitars refuse polite chug. Every chord is an impact, every break a lurch. In a year defined by new from the UK, US, this quietly widens the map. Punk was already there, sweating through the walls on the other side of the world. Cleveland's lake-rusted edges birth a factory dreaming. The modern dance opens with a pop feint and then fractures into overdriven overtones and ricocheting noise. Elsewhere, negative space feels radioactive. You hear EML synth burbles, tape weirdness, guitars that scrape rather than soar, and David Thomas's high, tremoring croon threading the chaos. The trick is how catchy it remains while dragging in industrial weather, hooks and hostility fused at the hinge. If punk blew the door off, Pere Ubu walked through and rearranged the room. Songs as unstable systems, grooves that never settle where you expect. lyrics like surreal dispatches from a Midwestern future. Bristol, 1979. Dub space meets free jazz squall and political panic. On Why, Dennis Bovell turns the studio into an echo chamber where rim shots bloom into caverns and bass lines feel like fault lines. Guitars slash and scatter, refusing the safety rails of rock songcraft. Mark Stewart preaches over a rhythm section that staggers and lunges. This is purposeful rupture, not chaos for its own sake, but a dismantling of architecture, so a different truth can fit in the room. Experimental post-punk's map, no-wave screams, dub-wise deconstructions, traces back here. The groove survives the explosion, and the politics ride the groove.
You know, bro, there's just something special about the sound of a classic rock album on vinyl. It's how these albums were originally meant to be heard, the warmth, the crackle, and the ritual of dropping the needle on the record. It's an experience that digital just can't recreate. And if you've ever wanted to dive into that classic vinyl sound, but didn't know where to start, I've got you covered. I've been checking out this Victrola Bluetooth portable suitcase turntable. It's the perfect way to get into vinyl. You just pop it open, put on a masterpiece like Led Zeppelin's 4 or Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon, and let the needle drop on that legendary groove. The best part is, it's a suitcase design, so you can literally take your rock and roll vibes anywhere. You can move it from your bedroom to the living room, or even take it to a friend's place. And it even has Bluetooth, so you can stream music from your phone when you're not spinning records. It's the best of both worlds. This is a great starting point for any fan who wants to feel the foundation of rock lore in a whole new way. If you're interested in grabbing one for yourself, I've put a link to it in the description below. Clicking that link and buying one is an awesome way to support the channel and help us keep bringing you more deep dives into the music we all love. So go check it out, and let's get back to the countdown.
Feeling like I'll be dead, blind as the face,
Cardiff, 1980. The volume drops to a whisper and the floor seems to widen.
and I hope to be some.
Colossal Youth refuses to fill the air. Alison Staton sings just above conversation. Philip Moxham's bass draws unshowy, perfectly weighted lines. Stuart Moxham places tiny guitar figures and organ pulses like pins on a blueprint. A drum machine ticks without flourish. Space does the expressive work. Instead of choruses that lift, these songs narrow, and the tension becomes exquisite. Decades of indie learn you can swap distortion for negative space and still command a room. Minimal isn't unfinished here. It means every element carries meaning because there's nowhere to hide it. Cambridge, 1980. Psychedelia grows teeth. Underwater moonlight sharpens 60s jangle into something bright and barbed. Robin Hitchcock's surreal humor, riding Kimberly Rue's serrated leads. This single is as catchy as it is corrosive. Elsewhere, Kingdom of Love proves how the band pivots from chiming verses to riptide choruses without losing clarity. The rhythm section stays clipped and spring-loaded, while double-tracked, slightly detuned guitars gleam like sunlight on broken glass. This is the bridge record, psychedelia retuned for the college rock underground, feeding a lineage through the 80s jangle boom and 90s alternative, where melody and bite stop pretending they don't need each other. Portland Rain in guitar form. Greg Sage writes songs that feel like weather fronts. intense, driving, and relentlessly melodic. Is this real? Moves with a forward lean, the kind you can't quite relax into, because every downstroke feels like it could tip. The title is a dare and a diagnosis. These are simple structures engineered for pressure, tracked fast to keep the oxygen thin. Return of the Rat is the gauntlet. Clipped rhythms, serrated guitar, Sage's voice pitched between resolve and alarm. What makes the record endure isn't just velocity but design. Chord shapes that carry hooks inside the distortion, drum figures that pivot without showmanship, lyrics that read like notes tacked to a basement wall. Decades later, you can hear the 90s learning to walk here. Nirvana and the Pacific Northwest scene, borrowing the blueprint of tension married to melody, urgency without bombast, catharsis earned one downstroke at a time. This is The Quiet Revolution, a record that treats silence as its primary instrument. After dismantling their synth-pop beginnings, Mark Hollis and Tim Fries-Green retreat into room where musicians improvise to the edge of breaking, tape rolls for hours, and the song is found by subtracting everything that isn't necessary. Laughingstock is patience, air, and restraint. Snare hits placed like punctuation, guitar harmonics hanging in the rafters, double bass breathing at the edges of audibility. Ascension Day shows the method. A motif emerges tentatively, gathers friction, then tears open without ever turning into rock histrionics. The record's lesson is structural. Dynamics are narrative, negative space carries meaning, and performance can be assembled like sculpture. Entire post-rock lineages, Tortoise, Bark Psychosis, low-simmer experimental indie, absorb this grammar of tone and time, where what you don't play is the loudest choice. Louisville Midnight, written in margins and practiced until the seams disappear. Spiderland exposes the skeleton of a song, clean guitars braided in odd meters, drums speaking in measured phrases, vocals that arrive as whispered reports before erupting into unguarded confession. The power isn't volume, it's control. Each passage is a held breath, each eruption a decision that lands heavier because it's been delayed. Good Morning, Captain compresses the method into one final devastating build. Narration becomes incantation. Guitars, once surgical, flare into heat. A single shouted line collapses the distance between performer and listener. Recorded with almost documentary clarity, the album's austerity made it a cornerstone. Math, post-rock, learned its dynamics here. Slowcore borrowed its patience, and 1,000 bands discovered that 2 clean guitars and a drummer could rearrange your nervous system if they refused to rush. Graham Sutton and company set up in resonant spaces and let microphones gather weather. Hex trades riff and chorus for environment. Ambient hush, dubby low end, brushed drums that feel like a camera panning across a city at night. A street scene builds from near silence. Guitars barely raise their voice, preferring harmonics, swells, and after images. Here, arrangement is cartography. Strings and piano delineate districts. Bass draws the river that runs through them. Edits cut like streets crossing. It's the record critics point to when the word post-rock hardens into a term. Mood over muscle, detail over display. Songs as spaces you inhabit rather than paths you march. The influence is less about sound-alikes than about permission. Rock can be mixed like dub, paced like ambient, and still feel urgent. This video is sponsored by the Lore Store on Amazon, your one-stop shop for music lovers across reggae, rock, pop, and hip-hop. We built it for real listeners who don't want to dig through 1,000 listings to find the right gear. Inside the Lore Store, you'll find 5 aisles. VIP, top, battle-tested essentials. Headphones, turntables, speakers, gig-safe earplugs, smart speakers. Reggae vibe, roots and lovers. Rock made easy, automatic decks, warm bookshelf speakers, vinyl care. Rock lore, classic rock must-haves, open back cans, simple amps, living room concert vibes. Pop lore, feel-good everyday setups, clean, clear speakers, easy streaming, nostalgia-friendly picks. Hip-hop must-haves, punchy bass without the muddle, closed-back headphones and living room systems that handle low-end, plus a rotating crate of old album vinyl if you're rebuilding a 60s-90s collection. Every product page tells you who it's for, 3 pros, 1 con, and why we picked it. So you can choose with confidence. Flying soon? Check. VIP for noise canceling that tames plane roar. Mostly listening at home? Try open back headphones that let live albums breathe. Want instant gratification vinyl? Our fully automatic turntable is 1 button from silence to music, and the record cleaning kit knocks down crackle so the bass tightens up. Headed to shows? Grab high-fidelity earplugs, hands-free at home. Our smart speaker picks let you say, play 70s reggae or classic pop, and you're there. Deal alert. If you use the link in the description, you'll land on our curated picks with current best available Amazon pricing and active discounts where applicable. Prices change, so buy now to lock in today's deal. Tap the link in the description, pick your aisle, grab a favorite, and tell me which category you want me to build next. The Lore Store. Listen better, with gear that gets out of the way and lets the music live. A culmination disguised as a left turn. After a decade of taut post-hardcore, Unwound build their own studio and let the songs bloom into widescreen. Leaves turn inside. You is a double album that treats distortion, strings, mellotron, drones, and room tone as equal citizens. Crescendos aren't just louder, they're deeper, stacked in layers that crest and recede like weather systems. Look a Ghost reveals the record's architecture, melody threaded through dissonance, patience inside propulsion, before Terminus opens the horizon, tape-warped swells pulling the band toward a vanishing point. What's radical here isn't maximalism, it's integration. The raw nerve of DIY punk coexists with composedly attention to texture and form, turning the underground panoramic without sanding off its edges. In the 2000s, countless artists chased this balance, world-building on indie budgets, ambition measured not by gloss but by scope. Leaves stands as a masterclass in how to end a story by making the world feel larger than when you began. The journey doesn't end here, rock warrior. Watch this next.
Boys who will not grow up must be taken in hand.
Guitar gods hog the posters, but the hooks stuck in your head? Half of them were written on 4 strings. From the pulse of Rio to the fog of a forest, you've been humming bass lines your whole life, just not the names behind them. Tonight we count down 15 criminally underrated rock bassists, each with one must-hear track, what to listen for, and how their lines quietly rewired the songs you love. If you think bass just follows the guitar, this list will flip your mix forever. Melody in the low end, grooves that lead, and parts that made entire bands sound bigger than they were. We're talking Andy Rourke's singing runs, Tina Weymouth's minimalist magic, John Taylor's chic syncopation, Kim Deal's Say More with Less, Simon Gallup's Lead in the Shadows, Bruce Thomas's melodic engine, Colin Moulding's songwriter's low end, and a dozen more. This is Rock Lore. Subscribe, hit the bell, and let's drop the needle on the 15 most underrated rock bassists. Watch to the end and drop your own sleeper bassist in the comments. I'll pin the best picks for part 2. Mike Mills is the rare rock bassist whose greatest asset might be his ear for harmony. In REM's classic run, Peter Buck's chiming arpeggios and Bill Berry's metronomic snare form the lattice. Mills's bass is the vine that climbs it, singing counter-melodies that steer choruses without ever demanding center stage. The secret is how he treats motion as meaning. He rarely sits on the root for long. He'll walk, pivot, or trace a suspended chord's color, so your ear anticipates where the guitar will resolve before it gets there. His right hand is light and buoyant, often with a touch of pick articulation that keeps the eighth notes articulate without turning percussive. You hear the philosophy in Orange Crush. The track's Marshall snare and megaphone vocal could turn rigid fast. Mills's bass keeps the groove elastic, stepwise climbs into the pre-chorus, little tail notes that answer the vocal cadence, and a persistent low-end pulse that gives the guitars permission to jangle instead of chug. And above the waistline, his stacked harmonies with Barry transform REM's choruses into communal events. Lots of bands have riffs, far fewer have lift. Mills is the lift. Start with Orange Crush.
You know, bro, there's just something special about the sound of a classic rock album on vinyl. It's how these albums were originally meant to be heard, the warmth, the crackle, and the ritual of dropping the needle on the record. It's an experience that digital just can't recreate. And if you've ever wanted to dive into that classic vinyl sound, but didn't know where to start, I've got you covered. I've been checking out this Victrola Bluetooth portable suitcase turntable. It's the perfect way to get into vinyl. You just pop it open, put on a masterpiece like Led Zeppelin's 4 or Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon, and let the needle drop on that legendary groove. The best part is, it's a suitcase design, so you can literally take your rock and roll vibes anywhere. You can move it from your bedroom to the living room, or even take it to a friend's place. And it even has Bluetooth, so you can stream music from your phone when you're not spinning records. It's the best of both worlds. This is a great starting point for any fan who wants to feel the foundation of rock lore in a whole new way. If you're interested in grabbing one for yourself, I've put a link to it in the description below. Clicking that link and buying one is an awesome way to support the channel and help us keep bringing you more deep dives into the music we all love. So go check it out, and let's get back to the countdown.
Doug Wimbish is where studio science meets stage risk. As a member of the Sugar Hill House Band in the early 80s and later as Living Colour's bassist, he learned to treat bass not just as an instrument, but as a signal path. Octavers, delays, envelope filters, ring mod, looping. Wimbish doesn't decorate parts, he redesigns their physics. The dub sensibility is key. He plays with space the way a drummer plays with dynamics, sending fragments into delay or scooping frequencies in real time, so the part breathes like a living organism. On Living Colour's Leave It Alone, the line is both anchor and atmosphere, a rubbery syncopated figure with micro slides into the beat, then sudden blooms of effect that widen the stereo field without muddying the kick. The pocket never wobbles, even when the tone shifts mid-phrase. Your ear always knows where home is, but the scenery keeps changing. It's a masterclass in modern rock bass, rooted in funk, colored by dub and hip-hop, executed with the authority of a player who understands that the low end can be architecture and narrative at once. Start with Leave It Alone. Gail Ann Dorsey plays with an almost paradoxical presence. The lines feel unshakable, yet they leave air in the room for singers, snares, and strings to bloom. That's pocket as philosophy, time that invites rather than imposes. It's the quality Bowie leaned on from the mid-90s onward, when he rebuilt his live band for deeper dynamics and emotional fidelity. Dorsey's tone tends to be rounded and articulate, attack soft enough to avoid click, definition clear enough to trace a melody at conversational volume. Her calling card moment is Bowie's live Under Pressure, from the '97 tours, where she not only holds down that iconic bass figure with metronome serenity, but also takes Freddie Mercury's vocal, pitch true, generous, and huge without strain. What's striking is how she never lets the singing loosen the pocket. If anything, the bass grows calmer as the melody climbs. That dual command, foundation and focal point, explains why she slots so naturally into disparate settings. Bowie, Tears for Fears, Lenny Kravitz. The part serves the song's contour, not the player's ego. Start with Under Pressure, live 1997.
And I don't need no one to tell me about girl of mine.
Andy Fraser was a teenage revelation in Free, a songwriter-bassist whose lines behave like a second lead guitar, only with more soul. He treats the neck like a melody map, slides into chord tones, bold use of double stops, and rhythmic feints that push phrases forward, then hold them just long enough to make the next hit land heavier.
And only you hang around me now.
If Paul Kossoff gave Free its burnished vibrato, Fraser gave it swing, a pocket that lifts the blues into something like motion picture. Spin Mr. Big for the full thesis. The bass doesn't just underpin the riff, it leads it, skipping across the bar line, answering the vocal, then stepping into the spotlight without changing the song's center of gravity.
I don't want a thing from you. I don't want to give you nothing.
The dynamics are intensely human, little swells and retreats you can feel in your sternum. So when the band slams back in after a breakdown, the return feels earned rather than engineered. Fraser would co-write All Right Now, but it's Mr. Big that reveals how he thought. Bass as melody engine, groove as grammar. Start with Mr. Big. Mel Schacher mixed like a frontman long before heavy rock got comfortable putting bass that high in the faders. In Grand Funk Railroad's power trio format, he had to be chord, roar, and runway all at once. The tone is overdriven enough to throw harmonics into the room, but the center stays firm. Low mids that clamp onto the kick, an upper mid growl that reads through guitars without getting abrasive. He's a reminder that distortion isn't a costume, it's a compression strategy. Saturate the note so it occupies space that a second guitar would otherwise fill. Inside, Looking Out, is the exhibit. The line grinds and guides, long, sustaining tones where a typical bassist might punch short eighths, then sudden runs that slingshot the groove into the next section. In the breakdowns, you can hear how Schacher's sustain becomes arrangement. The bass holds the floor while drums and guitar trade hits, so when the full band crashes back, there's a sense that the song has been pulling at the leash. It's proto-stoner, proto-metal, and still completely alive. A lesson in how to be both bedrock and spectacle from the same instrument. Start with Inside Looking Out. The opening minutes of Bela Lugosi's Dead are essentially a bass area disguised as atmosphere. David J. doesn't hurry. He draws long vowel-like notes and lets the room answer back. The slight modulation on his tone, chorus and a kiss of delay, turns each sustain into a shifting color, so one pitch can carry a paragraph of feeling.
Shoot out of darkness.
Instead of outlining root fifth safety nets, he threads between chord centers, landing on tensions that make the guitar's splays and the drum's rim shots sound like intrusions into a private conversation. This is bass as cinematographer. By controlling decay and attack, he decides how wide the shot is. Palm muting narrows the frame. Open, chorused sustains widen it. A gliss here or there resets the horizon.
To be the cream.
The part isn't busy, but it's texturally talkative. Tiny slides into downbeats, ghost notes that read more like breath than rhythm, rests held just long enough to let reverb become a collaborator. In Bauhaus, where vocals and guitar often posture, David J. supplies the poise. In Love and Rockets, he brings the same lyric instinct to pop structures, underwriting hooks with counter melodies that refuse to grandstand. If you think goth is all surface, his bass teaches you how space does the storytelling.
Can always be taken away. All that has been given.
Fugazi's guitars argue. Joe Lally listens. He comes out of a dub tradition where the bass isn't a metronome so much as a pressure system, steady, pliant, responsible for how the air sits in the room. On Waiting Room, he sets a simple stepwise figure that everyone else has to respect. The line is modest on paper, but because he plays it with unyielding time and a round, centered tone, it becomes the song's moral authority. When the whole band drops to silence, the re-entry works because Lally's pocket has taught you how the song should breathe. His secret weapon is withholding. He'll omit an obvious fill, land early on the one, or lean on a note a fraction longer than comfort allows. Micro choices that keep tension coiled without ever getting fussy. That discipline gives the drums room to syncopate and the guitar's license to scrape and jab without collapsing the grid.
Always be taken away. All that has been given.
Listen to how often he doesn't chase the guitar's drama. He anchors the tempo of attention. In a catalog famous for politics and volume, Lally's great statement is structural. The low end can be the band's ethics, calm, proportion, restraint, even while everything above it rages. Kim Deal's genius is to play exactly what the song needs before anyone knows they need it. Gigantic is the case study, a patient, almost elementary figure that gives the drums a wide boulevard and the guitars permission to be air, not bricks. She often favors fundamental tones with the slightest hair of grit, notes that speak but never shout. So when she adds a single passing tone or a tiny anticipatory pick attack, you feel it like a plot twist. Her time feel sits fractionally behind the snare, a pocket that makes loud, quiet dynamics hit harder because the quiet has weight. Deal also grasps harmony as architecture. In Pixies, where chords can pivot on a dime and vocals split between sugar and snarl, her bass becomes the through line that teaches your ear how to travel. She rarely doubles riffs. She grounds them, picking anchor tones that make harmonic weirdness feel inevitable rather than clever. In The Breeders, the blueprint's the same, just sunnier. Low end as trust, telling the listener, you can relax, the floor won't move. Plenty of players can play more notes. Very few can make one note feel this necessary. This video is sponsored by the Lore Store on Amazon, your one-stop shop for music lovers across reggae, rock, pop, and hip-hop. We built it for real listeners who don't want to dig through 1,000 listings to find the right gear. Inside the Lore Store, you'll find 5 aisles. VIP, top, battle-tested essentials, headphones, turntables, speakers, gig-safe earplugs, smart speakers. Reggae vibe, roots and lovers. Rock made easy, automatic decks, warm bookshelf speakers, vinyl care. Rock lore, classic rock must-haves, open back cans, simple amps, living room concert vibes. Pop lore, feel-good everyday setups, clean, clear speakers, easy streaming, nostalgia-friendly picks. Hip-hop must-haves, punchy bass without the muddle, closed-back headphones and living room systems that handle low-end, plus a rotating crate of old album vinyl if you're rebuilding a 60s-90s collection. Every product page tells you who it's for, 3 pros, 1 con, and why we picked it. So you can choose with confidence. Flying soon? Check. VIP for noise canceling that tames plane roar. Mostly listening at home? Try open back headphones that let live albums breathe. Want instant gratification vinyl? Our fully automatic turntable is 1 button from silence to music, and the record cleaning kit knocks down crackle so the bass tightens up. Headed to shows? Grab high-fidelity earplugs. Hands-free at home? Our smart speaker picks let you say, play 70s reggae or classic pop, and you're there. Deal alert. If you use the link in the description, you'll land on our curated picks with current best available Amazon pricing and active discounts where applicable. Prices change, so buy now to lock in today's deal. Tap the link in the description, Pick your aisle, grab a favorite, and tell me which category you want me to build next. The Lore Store. Listen better, with gear that gets out of the way and lets the music live. Call it the Great Sleight of Hand. John Taylor smuggled classic disco funkcraft into Dayglow pop and got a generation dancing to 16th note bass. On Rio, the line never stops talking. Pops, ghosted pickups, octave flips, and syncopations that walk right up to slap funk without crossing into caricature. It's a study in right-hand control, articulation sharp enough to swing, legato smooth enough to sing. The drums provide straight-ahead propulsion. Taylor braids a counterpulse through it, making the chorus lift because the bass lifts. What separates him from mere flash is mix awareness. He chooses registers and note lengths that leave the kick unmasked and the vocals uncrowded, so the arrangement feels expensive rather than dense. Those Chic and Bernard Edwards fingerprints are obvious, but Taylor's gift is translation, taking club literacy and adapting it to pop songwriting where the bass line can be both hook and glue. You think you're humming the chorus. Half the time you're humming John Taylor. Eric Avery writes riffs the way some people draft blueprints. A repeating figure sets the load-bearing wall, and everything else, psychedelic guitar color, tribal drum patterns, vocal exorcisms, attaches without compromising the structure. Mountain Song is pure Avery, a sledgehammer ostinato, picked hard for definition, that refuses to budge even as the band throws sparks at it. Because the line is so sure of itself, it becomes a ritual, a return point that makes each explosion feel like a chosen departure rather than a mess. His lines are deceptively athletic. The constancy demands endurance and microscopic precision. The slight palm mute, the ironclad down-up pattern, the choice to not accent an obvious spot. These are compositional decisions, not defaults. He also understands register as drama, planting the riff in a mid-low range so guitars can shine above without erasing the bass's face. In a scene that often mistook excess for scale, Avery figured out how to sound bigger by standing perfectly still, letting repetition turn into hypnosis, and hypnosis into liftoff. With The Cure, Robert Smith's guitar frequently behaves like mist, delays, harmonics, sheets of texture. That puts unusual narrative weight on the bass, and Simon Gallup answers by playing lead roles without ever grandstanding. A Forest is the blueprint, a spare drum pulse, Lowell Tolhurst, a faint keyboard smear, and Gallup's relentless two-bar ostinato that is the song's spine. He favors a plectrum for definition, sits in the low-mid register so the vocal has sky above it, and sprinkles tiny approach notes that tighten the screws as the arrangement widens. Listen for how he controls anxiety through note length. Early on, he chokes sustains to leave room for echoes. As the track grows, he lets notes bloom into the chorus, so the whole band appears taller without playing louder. The slight modulation, chorus, flange, isn't just a tone choice, it's dramaturgy, turning a single pitch into moving weather. In live versions, he'll drag the riff a hair behind the kick to deepen the trance, then snap back on transition so the drop feels like a door slamming. Post-punk often prizes atmosphere. Gallup proves atmosphere can have a voice. Tina Weymouth's superpower is restraint with X-ray clarity. In Talking Heads, where polyrhythms, Afrobeat patterns, and art school angularity jostle for attention, her lines stay small and perfectly weighted, tiny shapes that make everyone else sound bigger. genius of love, distills the approach. A buoyant, syncopated figure that never crowds the kick, lets Chris France's snare snap, and becomes so singable it effectively is the top line. What to notice? Her note choices often define harmony by omission. She anchors on chord tones but avoids obvious roots on downbeats just long enough to create glide. By the time she resolves, your ear has already leaned forward. Muted attacks keep the groove tight. Occasional open notes act like little windows.
Take a look at these hands.
She repeats a lot, but that repetition is design. It teaches dancers where the floor is, while guitars, keys, and percussion paint the ceiling. Minimalism can be anonymous. Weymouth's is identifiable within a bar because she treats space as part of the part. Bruce Thomas plays bass like a Motown scholar who fell in love with pub rock velocity, melody in motion. Pump It Up is a clinic. Pete Thomas's backbeat marches forward. Steve Neve's Farfisa wee organ jitters at the edges. And Bruce stitches the whole thing together with a constantly traveling line that dodges roots, outlines passing chords, and throws in little chromatic dips that make every turnaround feel necessary. Two craft choices to clock. First, pick articulation. The attack is sharp enough to cut through Costello's trebly guitar, but controlled so the low end still hugs the kick. Second, counter melody discipline. When the vocal lands, he clears space by shortening note lengths or dropping to simpler figures. Between phrases he surges, so the bass becomes the song's breath. Lots of bassists decorate. Thomas narrates, nudging the harmony where it needs to go, and giving deceptively wordy songs a physical through line you can whistle. Because Colin Moulding is a primary songwriter as well as bassist, his parts think like lyrics. They argue, reassure, and occasionally contradict the chords on purpose. Making Plans for Nigel centers on a tom-heavy drum figure, Terry Chambers, that could feel rigid. Moulding dissolves the stiffness with a gently syncopated line that floats around the downbeat, outlining suspended colors before arriving home.
Trying to get way up with a smile.
It's a masterclass in how bass can reframe harmony, emphasizing thirds and sixths so the progression tilts toward bittersweet even when the guitar is square. He also understands register as storytelling.
Be king for a day. King for a day.
Verses live low and supportive. Pre-choruses creep upward in small steps. The chorus arrives and suddenly the bass is singing just under the vocal, lifting without stepping on it.
No time to fuss and fight. 'Cause life don't be
Elsewhere in the catalog, Senses Working Overtime, Love on a Farm Boy's Wages, he uses similar logic, turning counter melodies into quiet hooks. Moulding's bass doesn't back XTC. It co-authors the mood, giving Prickly Pop its warmth and odd meters their glide.
You know, bro.
Johnny Marr's guitar gets the ink, but the Smith's secret is that two melody instruments constantly converse. Andy Rourke's lines are fluent, mobile, and unafraid of the spotlight. McCartney's songfulness filtered through 80s Manchester and a deep affection for soul-funk phrasing.
Unruly girls who will not settle down.
Barbarism Begins at Home is the unmasked thesis. A sinuous, near-slap funk figure drives a long vamp, while Rourke threads fills that land on vocal breaths, then climbs into singing runs that answer Marr like a second lead. What makes it great isn't speed, it's voice leading. Rourke moves between chord tones in ways that predict, then justify, Marr's next voicing, so harmony feels conversational rather than blocky. He'll pivot off a ninth or slide into a sixth to tint a line melancholy without darkening the groove, then drop to the root at precisely the moment Morrissey needs ballast.
It's what you got for asking. And I'm gonna
The right-hand touch is elastic, mostly fingerstyle with pops and ghost notes for punctuation, so the tone stays warm even when the part dances. Across the catalog, This charming man, the headmaster ritual, still ill. The pattern holds. The bass doesn't just fill, it leads from the middle, giving bright guitars and baritone croon a shared center of gravity. The journey doesn't end here, rock warrior. Watch this next.